Hey, so we are continuing in Revelation 5 this week. It's our second week in Revelation 5. We will be here at least one more week. I'm not sure, probably not next week. Someone else, I believe, is teaching at our church next week, but I'll be trying to wrap up, I believe, wrapping up chapter 5 in the week following that on the weekend of the 25th. Revelation 5, I said this last week, Revelation 5 may be. Uh, it's certainly one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. I think it's just there's so much in it, and I think there's some great lessons that we can learn. And I'm going to try to draw one of those out today that I think maybe isn't something we think about when we approach this particular chapter. And part of that is because of interpretation, the way we interpret the Book of Revelation. If we see the Book of Revelation as talking about end times, so something way in the future, I don't think Revelation 5 connects in the way that it does if we understand that John was seeing visions of things that were literally about to take place. I mean, like, that is what the angel told him in Revelation 4, right? Come up and see these things which are about to take place. Well, if these things are about to take place, that actually makes us approach this passage very differently. And I think one of those will be drawn out when I talk through this passage. So let me do that. Let me read through it, and then I'll explain kind of what I'm talking about in regards to that way of understanding this chapter. Starting in verse 1, I'm going to read through the whole chapter. We're really only going to cover the first 7 verses, although I'm going to talk, I will read a little bit later on. I'll kind of touch on some later stuff, but really we're going to focus, actually, we're not even going to focus on the first 7. We're really going to focus on the first 3 or 4, and that's going to be the main part of our focus here today. But let me read it to you. Then I saw in the right hand of the one seated on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides, sealed with 7 seals. I also saw a mighty angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals?" But no one in heaven, or on earth, or under the earth, was able to open the scroll or even to look in it. I wept and wept, because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or even to look into it. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. Look, the Lion from the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has conquered so that he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Then I saw one like a slaughtered lamb standing in the midst of the throne, and the 4 living creatures, and among the elders. He had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent into all the earth. He went and took the scroll out of the right hand of the one seated on the throne. When he took the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp and golden bowls filled with incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song. "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slaughtered. And you purchased people for God by your blood from every tribe and language and people and nation. You made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they will reign on the earth." Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels around the throne, and also of the living creatures and of the elders. Their number was countless thousands plus thousands of thousands. They said with a loud voice, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slaughtered to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing." I heard every creature in heaven, on earth, under the earth, on the earth, and everything in them say, "Blessing and honor and glory and power be to the one seated on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever." The 4 living creatures said, "Amen," and the elders fell down and worshipped. This passage focuses our attention. We talked last week about how we focus our attention on the lion who is the lamb. But there are other things that, while he is the main focus, Jesus is the main focus, not just of this chapter. Jesus is the main focus of Scripture, right? Like, so let's not beat around the bush about that. But in this chapter, there are other things that are also meant to draw our attention. And one of them is the thing that draws John's attention at the beginning of chapter 5. I looked, and in the right hand. Now, There's something significant going on here. Pay attention, right? Because John's standing in the throne room of God. There are 24 elders. There are 4 living creatures. There are angelic beings. There's all of this worship that's going on that happened in chapter 4. The casting down of the crowns, the throwing down of the elders and worshiping God, the singing, the proclamation of God's glory and honor. And John sees the scroll. Like, he witnesses all of that, and then he sees the scroll. And he sees the scroll with 7 seals, and these 7 seals represent something. This scroll with the 7 seals. He knew what he was looking at. The scroll with the 7 seals, with the writing on both sides of the scroll, that is both normal and not normal. It's normal that you would have a scroll with writing on it with seals. Like, that part of it's normal. Writing on both sides, it's not that it never happened. It was just a rare thing. Generally, it was like important, like legal documents or something like that. Generally speaking, if you were to write a letter to somebody, you didn't send them a scroll with writing on both sides. You would just do it on one side, the side that's getting rolled up. You can't see it, right? Well, this kind of speaks to the amount of information that's going to be contained in this scroll. Like, they need to understand that this is going to be a lot. And so here we have John, who is witnessing this scroll with the 7 seals, and he sees that this scroll is packed with information, and it has these the 7 seals on this scroll. And John says that I saw the scroll with the writing on front and back. I see the 7 seals. Again, the seals would have been a fairly normal thing. If you were going to send a scroll, in particular an important document, to someone far away, you would seal it, and so that there was only one person who was allowed to break that seal and open it up. And so John sees this scroll with all of this information, and he knows what it contains because the angel told him, "Come up here, and I'm going to show you what's about to take place." So what do we think is in the scroll? In the scroll is what is about to take place, and he says, "Oh, I need to know what's in that scroll. I need to see what's going on, what's going to happen in these coming days." The coming days for John and for the church of that day were going to be tumultuous, and he wanted to know, what does the future hold for the church? And then a mighty angel. I think that's important. It's not an angel who makes this cry, this desire, who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals. It is a mighty angel, or a great angel, a powerful angel. Who is the one who is worthy to open the scroll and to break its seals? And they look, and look what it says. But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or even to look into it. No one was worthy. Why point out the fact that it was a mighty angel? Well, there are lots of types of angels in the scriptures. We find them. We find some angels that are glorious, and they cause the people who see them to fall down, and sometimes in worship. John does that later on in Revelation. Sometimes it's not worship, it's just fear, But there are other times, the author of Hebrews tells us that there are times that angels appear and we don't even know it. Like, we have no idea that they were angels. They look so much like everybody else that we've been caught unaware. And so here we are with this mighty angel. And who else is in the throne room? Well, we read about this in chapter 4, right? So in the throne room, there are 24 elders. These 24 elders, as we talked about last week, represent those who are part of God's kingdom, both from the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. 12 of those 24 represent the Old Covenant, 12 of them represent the New Covenant. But who do they represent? They represent the people who are part of God's kingdom. Are any individuals in the kingdom of God worthy to open the scroll, to break its seals? Not one. We see in chapter 4 the 4 living creatures that represent all of God's created animals. We We see the wild animals, the tame animals, the flying animals. We see the one that looks like a human. So not just the people who are in God's kingdom, but the people who are out of God's kingdom, all of humanity. Is any beast on the earth, any animal, any human, are any of them, any flying creature, are any of them worthy to open the scroll and to break its seals? No. How about the angel, the mighty angel? No. By the end of the chapter 5, we find that there are many angels and living creatures, and their numbers equaled thousands upon thousands upon thousands. We'll talk about that stuff next time. Are any of the angelic world worthy to open the scroll and break its seals? No. Not one. What does it require to be worthy? I want to skip ahead. I said I was going to skip ahead just a little bit. I just want to read one verse from later on that we'll discuss next time we're together. They sang a new song saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals." They're singing to the Lion who is the Lamb. They're singing to Jesus, the one who was slaughtered. You are worthy to take the scroll and open its seals because you were slaughtered, and you purchased people for God by your blood from every tribe and language and people and nation. So what are we searching for? We're searching for somebody who can do something to save humanity. That's what we're looking for. Who can open the scroll? Who can break the seals? Well, we discover later on that the person who is worthy is the one who gave himself up for the sake of everyone else. Who is worthy to open the scroll, to break its seals. And no one is found worthy. Not in heaven, not on earth, not in the sky, not in the sea. And it says that John weeps. John weeps and weeps. He's heartbroken over this. Now this is an important point. I have heard and read a lot of people suggest that the reason John is weeping is because he can't see what is about to take place. Because what happens in the following chapters as the scroll is open, as the seals are broken, is that the events play out in front of John. He's able to see what's about to take place. So some have suggested that the reason John weeps is because he knows what's in the scroll and he can't see it. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. We're in tumultuous times too, by the way. Not the same, but think about the things that were attacking the church in those days. If we just kind of cast our minds back to the letters to the 7 churches, think about some of those things. Some of those churches were facing danger because of the Romans that were threatening their way of life. Some of them were facing the dangers of the Jews who were threatening their way of life. So those were external violent dangers. I live in America. I pastor a church in America. We don't have to worry about those. But there are a lot of other things that are found in those 7 letters that we do have to worry about. Some of those churches were facing heresies that had found themselves rooted in the church. Some of them were facing not so much heresy, they were just lethargic, you know? They had grown so lazy with their Christianity that they weren't even really functioning. Some had become so convinced of their own righteousness that they didn't really feel like they needed Jesus anymore. Some of those churches had grown so convinced that right theology was the most important thing that they had cast out everything else, including loving God and loving neighbor. Like, they had become Pharisees, basically. These dangers definitely face the church in America. And do we weep because we don't know the future? I don't think so. Why does John weep? John doesn't weep because he doesn't know what's to come. As a matter of fact, that's not what he tells us. He tells us why he wept. I wept and wept because no one was found worthy. He doesn't say, I wept because now I can't know what's about to take place. He weeps because no one is found worthy. Because what does it mean if no one is found worthy to open the scroll, to break its seals? It means that the church is heading into a dangerous situation, and there's no one to hold on to. Because no one is worthy to lay these things out. The reason John weeps isn't because he doesn't know, but because if there's no one who's found worthy to open the scroll, to break its seals, then there's no hope. There's no hope for the world. There's no hope for the church. The Church of Jesus Christ today, and let me pause and say, I often say the church in America. This isn't me trying to be against the church in America. It's just, I can't speak for the church in Scotland or in Korea or in Germany or in Nigeria. Like I don't pastor any of those churches. I can talk a little bit about what the churches in Britain were like 20 years ago because I went to college there, but really I've been pastoring churches in the United States for over 20 years, so it's the place that I'm the most familiar with. So that's when I say the church in America, that's what I mean. The church in America has largely given itself over to a theology that is all about where you go when you die. So the hope that we have in Jesus is essentially a get out of hell free card. You know, it's like when you play Monopoly, that horrible board game that takes far too long to play. You get the get out of jail free card. So if I go to jail, I don't have to, I can play this card and then I get out for free. It's pretty cool, right? For some Christians, for many Christians, for generations, all Christianity is a way for me to escape hell. This is the way it's been preached. This is the way it's been taught. This is what we see in Christian media all over the place. That the thing we long for the most as Christians is the hope that's found in eternity. Now let me say, don't jump all over my case here. Like, I have a hope in Jesus that I am going to be with him forever. And I am thankful for this. But actually, Jesus is a lot better than that. Yes, I have a hope in Jesus. But I also hope in Jesus for tomorrow. And I'm planning on being alive tomorrow. I don't think Jesus, I mean, Jesus might come back tonight. I don't know. But if Jesus doesn't come back tonight and I'm living for another 20 years, guess what? I have hope in Jesus for all of those days. That he will be with me in the good times and he will be with me in the bad times and he will be with me in the normal times. You know, we have good times. We have mountains and valleys, and so much of Christianity we like to talk about, oh, Jesus is with me on the mountain, Jesus is with me in the valleys. Yeah, I just want to know, is Jesus with me in the boring times in between? Like is Jesus with me on Tuesday? Is Jesus with me on in the days when there's nothing really bad and there's nothing really good and I'm just going about my life? Well, the hope of Jesus Christ is that he is with me in those times. And for John, as he's looking into the days ahead, and there's these tumultuous times that the church is going to be facing, he knows this because he knows what he's already seen. He knows what the letters have already said to these churches. He knows that there's dangers that are coming because he's lived in them. He's been exiled on the island of Patmos. He knows that the church is in danger. So what is his concern? Is that there's going to be no one to carry them through the coming days. And I think the church has largely forgotten this. That Jesus is, he's going to be with me forever. But my salvation, it's going to be tomorrow too. And well, the rest of today and next week and next month and next year. And when I go through great times, when I go through bad times, Jesus is going to be there. And here's why I want to make sure I emphasize this so much. This is also the Jesus we share with our neighbors. Because very often evangelism, the sharing of the gospel, has been all about follow Jesus so you don't go to hell, as opposed to follow Jesus because he'll make your marriage better. Like, he doesn't save every marriage because we all have free will, right? So I get all that, but marriages with Jesus at the center of them, they're better. They just are. Follow Jesus because work will be better. Follow Jesus because when you go through the good times and the bad, Jesus there. There's a reason that the 23rd Psalm has been so important to Christians for thousands of years. He leads me beside the still waters. He's with me in the valley of the shadow of death. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me in paths of righteousness. When is Jesus with me? When I'm resting, when I'm walking, when I'm going through the darkness. This is what Jesus is going to do. This is what Jesus is about. And I love this about Jesus. I love the fact that Jesus is so much more. I was listening to a sermon a couple weeks ago, and it's a pastor in Minneapolis, I believe, but Pastor Gregory Boyd, and he said this. He said that however good you think Jesus is, if you get to the place where you're thinking, no, that Jesus is just too good to be true, he says you've almost got him. You're almost there. You've almost made it. And I love that about Jesus. And that's what this passage is. As John is looking forward to the dangers that are ahead, and he knows that they're coming, it's not so much that John is weeping because he doesn't get to see what's about to unfold. But instead, John is weeping because whatever is ahead for the church, if Jesus isn't there with them, there's no hope. I see a little bit in this passage of Moses back when he's leading the Israelites. And he says to Yahweh, he says, if you're not going to go with us into the promised land, just let us die here. There's no point in moving forward if we're moving forward without God. And that's why John weeps. Because there's no point in moving forward. And for Christians, there's no point in tomorrow if Jesus isn't going to be there with me. This is the beauty of Revelation chapter 5 is that, do you know who's with you today and tomorrow? If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, the one who is with you tomorrow is the one who was slaughtered so that you could walk with him. He conquered death and sin and darkness so that whatever lies in front of you, you can live in the light of his love. That is the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's so much better than the versions that we've often been fed. All right, I could really go on like this for a while. I need to stop. So let me close it there. We will try to finish this up in a couple of weeks, chapter 5. But in the meantime, think on these things. Be blessed and know the blessing of God. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.